I've had to say a million times, the court of public opinion has absolutely nothing to do with the court of law.
No, absolutely.
And so, people can be like, we want Min Heejin back, and the courts are going to go, she's guilty of X, Y, and Z. If they do, and then she's in jail, then how is she CEO of anything?
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Ultimate Bias K-Popcast. I'm your host, Dre. Joining me is the lovely co-host, Dana.
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Long time no see.
Long time no see. It's been a minute, has it?
It's been like 7 hours.
7 hours. Not bad, not bad. All right, y'all. This week, we're switching things up with the launch of our Riverside Sessions. In these special sessions, we'll dive deep into chosen topics alongside Dana and other trusted industry experts. Our goal is to bring you thoroughly researched insights into significant stories coming out of Korea. This week, we're focusing on Min Heejin and New Jeans.
Yeah, we sure are. So this week we have asked Shannon, who you probably remember as our resident marketing genius, to return to join us in this discussion. We can't wait to hear her take on all the things going on with Min Heejin and Adore and HYBE, New Jeans.
All of that. Well, first of all, thank you, Shannon, for coming on again, all the way from the UK. My God.
Thanks for having me back.
And Dana, can't wait to hear what you prepared, all on this interesting topic that we're about to all hear. Oh, my God.
To be fair, Shannon and I collaborated on this to make sure that everything that was important was...
we love a collaboration.
Hit, all the points were hit, because there's a lot there.
It's a long timeline, and it just gets more corporate crazy by
4 pages of notes. We have 4 pages of notes on this.
I see it right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it.
So let's get into it. So just so, as a disclaimer to everybody who's listening, you might hear a little bit of a different vibe out of me because in my real life, I actually work in HR. So this is about to get a little bit professional because there's a lot on the line here. And we brought Shannon in because she works in marketing, which might seem like it wouldn't have anything to do with this, but it has a lot to do with all of this and the way it's being presented to all of us in the public. So to start out, let's go into a little cheeky timeline. So on April 22nd of this year, HYBE launches an audit on Adore and Min Heejin. Also on the 22nd, Min Heejin holds a press conference, the infamous press conference, and shortly thereafter files an injunction to stay her termination. So what that means is that HYBE is going to move forward with terminating her from CEO, and she is now using the courts to stay that termination, to stop it from happening so that she can keep her job. On May 22nd, B-Lift Music files a lawsuit against Min Heejin for obstruction of business and defamation. And then on May 30th, the court rules in favor of Min Heejin to stay her termination, stating that while she has caused harm to HYBE, she has not caused harm to Adore. And as the CEO of Adore, it is her responsibility to look after Adore. On June 11th, B-Lift files an additional civil lawsuit against Min Heejin. At the end of June, around the 29th or so, HYBE cancels Min Heejin's shareholder contract. Now, this is going to come back as something important. On July 11th, Source Music files a lawsuit against Min Heejin for obstruction of business and defamation. On August 23rd, former employee B of Adore files both a civil and criminal lawsuit against Min Heejin for allegedly covering up sexual assault allegations done by VP A. It is stated that shortly thereafter, Adore themselves reopened the investigation into these claims. And this reopening happened towards the end of August, around the 27th or so. The Adore board voted to remove Min Heejin as CEO, but wishes to keep her on as creative director for New Jeans and on the board of directors until the end of her contract in November. She has offered a new contract to fill the 2-month gap between removal of CEO and the end of her board of directors contract, but she declined. On September 11th, New Jeans goes live on YouTube. Shortly thereafter, on September 12th, Min Heejin files an injunction to reverse her termination from CEO. On the 24th, Adore, the new management of Adore, held a meeting with New Jeans members and their parents. So that was today.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
wonder how that went.
So we can kind of get into that and the speculation of to what that may have been and why it happened the way that it did. But so that is just a quick little cheeky rundown of everything that has happened this summer in regards to Min Heejin, Adore, and HYBE. So the audit. This is important information. The audit that happened. So we're going to harken back and call back to things that Min Heejin and her lawyers have said. We're also going to talk about things that HYBE has said in the interim. But we are going to go back a lot to the press conference that happened back in May. I can't believe it was in May.
Yeah.
Time is flown. Time flies when you're having whatever this is.
Whatever this is.
Yeah.
Stress and turmoil.
Yeah.
So the shareholder contract that HYBE canceled at the end of June. Now, previously, Min Heejin had stated that she wished to change her shareholder contract at any time to talk about contracts, because people are like, is this something you can do? You can, in fact, go and change your contracts. You can sit down with your own management and you can adjust and discuss and make changes. You can do that at any time. You can request that. So she had in fact previously made changes to her contract previously, like her actual employee contract as CEO that HYBE had played ball with, and they had, made changes to the things that she wanted to do. But now at one point she had a meeting and she wanted to change her shareholder contract to up the price of the payout of her stocks, as well as to remove the non-compete. Now, a non-compete is when it's written into your contract that if you are in a job, whatever it may be, and it's really common in higher up positions, but it's also common in any sort of job you could have, that if you leave or are terminated for a certain amount of time, you will not work in the field that you were previously in. This is very important for higher ups in business, because if you are, say, a CEO or a CFO or a COO, you know insider business dealings. And for that, they want to make sure that you're not going to take that information to another company. The theory is that within a year, whatever you knew was going to happen or was in the works to happen will have already happened by the time you start working at another company. That's kind of how that works and why that's there. But she wanted the removal of the non-compete. She also requested complete control of talent contracts within Adore, which would allow her to create but also terminate contracts of talent at any time. And HYBE denied all of those requests. So that was something she wanted changed and or gone, which is why the deletion or the cancellation of this contract is important, because now she wants it back.
I see.
Yes. Because of that, because the cancellation of that non-compete and the shares and that contract, the Adore board was able to fire her, essentially, without that contract. Now, details on the audit. This is a big deal because her lawyers are claiming that the audit was illegal. At least this is what they're saying publicly. The details that we know as such is that HYBE stated that during a routine audit in March, they found signs of misconduct, to which they launched a full internal audit of Adore, including the employees. And they found proof of a planned attack on HYBE to end in the result to end in taking over Adore and removing it from within HYBE. Now, here's what's important to know about audits within a conglomerate or a corporate space in general. The main company can audit any of their subsidiaries at any time. Like, that's just part of how it works. Think about, like, if you work retail, I think a lot of us have done that. You know how every year they'll do, like, inventory?
Yeah.
And it happens every year. That's what an audit is, and it happens every year. Now, at any time, if any misconduct is found, or any sort of red flags are raised, the main company, the head company, in this case being HYBE, can go in and audit a subsidiary at any time. So it's like fact checking, making sure everything's running smoothly, so on and so forth.
Oh, God.
I mean, and it can result in nothing. They can do the audit, find nothing, and go, found nothing, and roll right on out. Now, if they find something, that's when
action happens.
Disaster can strike.
Yeah.
So the audit and why it is legal, like I said, they can in fact go in and do that at any time. And it is because thus HYBE has a responsibility to their shareholders. And if at any time they see that, so legally they have a responsibility to their shareholders that if they see anything amiss, they are to investigate to make sure things are in fact copacetic. If they had not, and their shareholders had found that there was indeed reason for audits, the shareholders would be able to take legal action against HYBE.
Whew.
Yeah.
That's a lot of information, but also like, Jesus.
I know I'm just tossing a lot of information out there and you're just going to go, oh my God, it's so much. But, you know. So, details on the audit. So, as well as finding that there was a planned attack on HYBE that would result in removing a door from HYBE and turning it into its own individual, like a SM or JYP, like that's the goal, right?
Right.
So they also found proof of insider trading, embezzlement, defamation, conspiracy to seize managerial control, and violation of privacy laws, to name the big ones.
Nice little pot there.
Yeah.
There are more, but those are the big ones.
Okay.
So, there were planned smear campaigns on artists outside of Adore, but within the companies under HYBE, and as well as HYBE as a company in and of itself. So HYBE is a conglomerate, and then the subsidiaries are all the companies, right? There were plans for bringing in outside investors, as well as meetings and talks with current major shareholders within HYBE, presumably to get them to join the coup. I don't know how else to describe it, other than a coup. It is speculated that said shareholders, upon realizing why they were in these meetings, went to HYBE and whistle blew.
They did not like going behind the back of HYBE, which I completely understand.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to go behind the back of HYBE either, given how huge they were at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they've surprisingly gotten bigger since this has happened. So they continue to grow. Just for a note out for people out there, HYBE is the only entertainment conglomerate currently within Korea. So SM is not a conglomerate. JYP is not a conglomerate. YG is not a conglomerate. HYBE plays in a different legal field because they are a conglomerate, but they are huge.
Yeah.
Damn HYBE. All right.
I know, which is why why people are always like,
Yeah.
like when it comes to HYBE, just like, what is this? You know.
And it's also a very different structure, isn't it, in terms of the way the business works as a conglomerate, because you have to make enough profit to be considered a conglomerate, but you also have to have enough child companies, we can call them, I suppose, as the parent. And that just completely, as we sort of know from the instances of the way that they function with, I mean, Big Hit's a slightly more unique case, as we know, as Dana, I know that you've explained many times in your little series on TikTok, but just to explain that Big Hit and HYBE have quite a unique relationship, but all of the others, including Adore, they are the child to the parent that is HYBE, and so they have to obey by the parents' rules in a very different way. And
it is a my house, my rules sort of situation when you are a subsidiary within a conglomerate. And I think it's also important to note that businesses do not operate like people.
No,
they do not have people feelings. They do not feel. They do not. They make their decisions based on a set of rules and regulations. Which is why something like HR is really important, because that's why HR, human resources, human relations, and it is to deal with the people side of things. So I know people are like, how could HYBE do this? HYBE's not a people. HYBE's not a person. And so they're going to make their decisions based on the set of rules and regulations that they have put in place.
I see.
Whether people like it or not.
No.
Oof.
Right? Yeah. So also found, to continue, chat logs with the VP. So there were 2 VPs that were involved in this who did in fact lose their jobs. They still work within Adore, but they are not on the board. They did not file injunctions to stay their terminations. They in fact seem to have just put their hands up and backed on out.
Yep.
That sounds smart.
So when Min Heejin did her stay and she was granted her stay, she did, I don't know if she assumed that would carry over to her VPs, but the courts more or less said, no, they... So the VPs have, in fact, just kind of, they've not filed any complaints, they've not filed any lawsuits, they've not filed any stays. They've allowed themselves to but they do still work within the company, but their power has more or less been stripped from them. But there were chat logs with the VP. One of these VPs is who is suspected to be involved in the sexual harassment case.
Oh.
Yeah. So chat logs with the VP on how to achieve the goals of acquiring a door into being an independent company, as well as with a shaman.
Ugh.
I don't know how to say that neutrally. But these chat logs contained harmful language towards not only New Jeans, their fans, but as well as other artists within the subsidiary companies of HYBE. These artists most notably being Le Sserafim, Islet, and BTS. The shaman, the note I put in here, the shaman. Why this is not great. So Min Heejin shares company and talent information, so like company insider information and talent's personal information with somebody outside of the company is violation of privacy and business privacy laws and regulations. So we spoke that she shared personal information about New Jeans. She shared personal and medical information about Le Sserafim members. She also started in on Islet. This girl's hadn't even debuted yet. I don't know.
Jesus.
But she also, most notably, the biggest part that people took out of the shaman chat logs were notably plans against BTS and Big Hit. Shannon brought up earlier that Big Hit has a different type of relationship in HYBE than the other subsidiaries do, and this is true, and it's because Big Hit is technically the parent company. Big Hit was the original OG. When HYBE became a corporation, at this point it was just a corporation, Big Hit Entertainment became Big Hit Music. And so they now became just a record label, but they're a record label that kind of sits next to HYBE, not necessarily under it. They are part of the subsidiary like collection of labels, but because they are technically the parent company, they are not involved in the shareholder business of things. So if you are a shareholder and you buy into HYBE, you do not have access to Big Hit.
I see.
You do have access to the other subsidiaries, but you do not have access to Big Hit.
So I think we can probably say quite fairly that the reason for that was sort of a protection for the likes of BTS and Big Hit with the kind of, obviously the reason why HYBE exists, I think we can say this quite objectively, is due to BTS's success. Like the size and the scale and the profit wouldn't have happened. So therefore it's a protective measure that anyone who would want to kind of get to BTS via HYBE is not able to do that. And Big Hit remains completely different, and that they have more of an equal footing, I think, between HYBE and Big Hit. It feels much more of a maybe partnership dynamic between HYBE and Big Hit. Some things that HYBE look after for Big Hit, but in terms of them being protected against certain things and having a bit more of a copacetic relationship, whereas, as we said, the other companies, it's a lot more parent-child, my house, my rules situation.
Correct. It also is important to note that all members of BTS are considered major shareholders in HYBE.
Mm-hmm.
So they themselves are the shareholders that they are, in fact, protected from.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Which is effectively a reward for all of their hard work, which was gifted.
I mean, give them the cash.
Yeah.
You know, like they very much have, you know, they are at a different footing. And I know that, and the same with TXT. TXT doesn't own shares, neither does Lee Hyun, unless they purchase them themselves, but they are in that Big Hit bubble, so they are protected from that. But they don't have the sort of power that BTS does as major shareholders within the company. They are, in fact, out of most of the major shareholders within HYBE that are not people, are companies. There's a couple companies, and then from there are a few individual folks that are individual peoples who own shares, and BTS are in the top numbers of that. But with this shaman, according to these chats, the shaman ensured that BTS enlisting would happen sooner rather than later. And within this time, it would allow them the gap in revenue, large revenue that HYBE would take in, that would allow a takeover to occur. It also states that a smear campaign was necessary and needed to happen before June of 2025, which the group is intended to come back in full.
Oof, okay.
I wonder, Dane, if it's worth giving a bit of background on shamanism, because I think this is quite a unique concept in Korea as well. And I think definitely we can feel like that's quite, I think from a Western perspective, we can see that's like quite a unique thing to South Korea. And I definitely sort of learned a lot about this because it does sound bizarre, but actually this is more common than I think we realize within Korean businesses high up. And effectively it is the idea, and shamanism is a practice within sort of the everyday citizens within Korea, but specifically at a business level, it is sort of this idea that allowing you to have success in your business, and the reason why you might not be getting success in your business is not because of human factors, but maybe supernatural, maybe divine factors. And therefore, if you ask for something, be it in this case for a merger to happen or for a business deal to fail, you can ask a shaman for advice, and the shaman is either going to give you a sense of it's going to happen, it's not going to happen, or as we've seen in the case of various text exchanges with this shaman between Min Hee-Jin going back all the way to 2021, it was very much, yes, I will put bad spirits into this person, I will ensure that this happens, this does not happen. And that's quite accepted by people within South Korea and within the business world, particularly obviously by Min Heejin, that she put stock into this enough that I think she, as Dana said, gave away some pretty confidential information about what she planned to do. And that is just, I mean, I imagine that with kind of shamans, you're supposed to obscure certain facts. With Min Heejin, she was no holds barred with this particular shaman, even maybe had quite a close relationship and thought them like a personal friend enough to give away some very sensitive information about what was going on.
Yeah, and not even about including New Jeans. Like she gave a lot of personal information even about New Jeans to this shaman. There are a lot of rumors that are swirling around the shaman that I don't know are true or not. There's a lot of speculation as to who this person is and who they're also associated with. We have no proof in that. Just to be clear, that all of the legal cases that are happening against Min Heejin are currently being investigated and are in the works. And I'm sure once all of that's concluded, we'll know more. Until then, this is just kind of like what's circulating in like the factual press, I guess. She also participated in attacks on Islet, who had yet to debut, and Le Sserafim. She had big issue with Le Sserafim debuting before New Jeans. There was a lot of conversation back and forth between herself and Source in regards to all of this. A lot of stuff came out in regards to she was originally supposed to be creating a girl group for Source and taking New Jeans out and creating a new label with them left Source in a spot.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of arguing back and forth. Some people would say that a lot of her arguments have been debunked. Some people would say they haven't been. It's really going to come up to when the court cases happen, what is true and what's not. It is to be noted that both the legal teams for both Le Sserafim and Islet have filed lawsuits against Min Heejin for defamation and faulty business practices, essentially. Min Heejin's team has claimed that these logs were obtained illegally. They didn't deny that the chats weren't hers. They just said that HYBE has acquired them illegally. So they more or less said, these are her, but you shouldn't have them.
Nope.
HYBE maintained that the logs were in fact obtained through either staff willingly handing over their communications during the audit, or they were found within HYBE's servers. Note to anyone who's listening, even if you are using your own personal phone or your own laptop, but you're at work and you're on your work's internet, everything you say and do is being stored in their servers and it is legally theirs.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people do not realize that. They think if it's not, I mean, for some of them, they did have to hand over their company devices, their company laptops. And I think what we know is that Min Heejin did do quite a lot of these coup attempts on a work laptop, which debatable if you think that was wise or not. But regardless, even if she thought that she was keeping some things private on her device, if it's all connected to their Wi-Fi, they've got it.
Also, if you have a device that was handed to you by the job, that device and everything on it is theirs.
Yeah.
They've loaned it to you to use while you're doing your work.
They own that.
They own it. So a lot of the stuff that they were saying that they've acquired through these avenues, whether, people willingly handing over their information, people handing over their work computers and phones and such, and going into the servers and digging it all out. So a little history on Min Heejin. She was brought on in 2019 to create a girl group. She goes all the way back to the birth of HYBE and its original, when it first started. Apparently, she originally wanted into Big Hit, but Big Hit refused. They keep their business and the people who work in it very close to the chest. So then she was contracted to create a girl group within Source. Conflict arose in Source. So Bang Shi-hook allowed Min Heejin to take the trainee she wanted to create New Jeans in a new company, Adore. She was made the CEO and eventually was given shares in Adore, but with HYBE still remaining the majority shareholder with 80%.
Oof.
Which is pretty common. They're the parent company. They own the majority. Yeah, and I think this was all part of her. She didn't like that.
No, I think she thought she was going to be given it all. She was not. And she still, to this day, owns the 18%. With the cancellation, I believe with the cancellation of her contract, she will be paid out for her stocks. But because the contract has been canceled, HYBE gets to decide how much they give her.
Interesting.
And this was part of her kind of plot, wasn't it, really? That she wanted to inflate and have HYBE massively increase the cost of her stock so that she could then effectively purchase more and then cash out and walk away with a lot of money, which has since been void. And I think that a lot of that is she's, again, not happy. She wanted to profit big off of this if it had been successful, effectively blackmailing HYBE in certain regards to get them to do what she wanted, and it didn't work.
It didn't work. They were like, and I do see people complain, like, they're just like, why? I've seen a lot of arguments, and I understand the argument of people saying, why didn't HYBE take care of this quietly? And here's the thing about taking care of something like this quietly. Both parties involved have to be willing to do it quietly. Yeah. If one person wants to take care of it quietly, I'm sure a corporation, a conglomerate, would love to take care of something like this quietly.
Yeah.
But if you start doing an audit and that person you're auditing shows up on a press conference that day, there goes it going quiet.
Someone's not going to be quiet.
Right. And a company that is just granted conglomerate status, and this is happening, it's a mess. I mean, we could go through HYBE's made mistakes in all of this as well. There has been some mismanagement, I think, in part out of not knowing what to do.
Nah.
I think in part allowing this sort of control to be given to Min Heejin was also a mistake they should not have made. And I think the first mistake they made was allowing her to take Source trainees out of Source without monetarily compensating Source.
And I think it's also interesting the amount of, and like you said, the amount of power she was given from the very beginning. Obviously, she was denied to get into Big Hit before HYBE even existed. When we sort of talk about Big Hit back then, Big Hit was HYBE. It was yet to become HYBE. It was the sort
they
of
had started the absorbing of other companies, but they hadn't branded themselves as HYBE yet.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't have that kind of that structure in the same way, and so therefore the rules were a little bit amorphous. I think things were still like being molded, and I think she probably wanted to get in there while it was all being shaped at that point. But I think she came from a background, she came from SM. She was, known to be a very talented creative director, having had a lot of success. There are things that people have said who have been from, the artists and the management companies of those that she was involved with, and they've said she wasn't great towards them either. So there's all of those allegations that are out there as well. But I think from a business perspective, people felt like she is a great person to have on as a brand consultant, as a creative director. And I think, this is something that came out in the press conference when she quite famously brought up her own text messages between herself and Bang PD, as we know, the creator of Big Hit and, sort of chairman now over HYBE, of just him being pretty complimentary towards her and seeming to want to give her a lot of things that she was asking for, and sort of we can't, we don't want to speculate on why that was, but it does feel like from a perspective that they wanted her on the team. They wanted her on board. She was impressive to them.
She had a lot of success.
On paper, it looks
with controversy, but a lot of success at her time at SM. I think also we should talk about New Jeans. The stress that is New Jeans and the stress that they're under, and why they might be responding the way they're responding. Because they're responding, I don't think they're responding shockingly.
No.
So as we know, New Jeans opened up a YouTube channel and went live. and made certain demands of HYBE, one of which being reinstating Min Heejin as their CEO and making everything go back to the way it was. They said they didn't want any special treatment. They just wanted everything the way that it was, and that they wanted the lawsuits to go away. I completely understand where this is coming from. I can completely understand why they feel this way. Their lives were on the trajectory and they were going well and it was successful and they had a dorm in Hanam and they had these wonderful ambassadorships to these high-end brands, and they're going to Fashion Week and they're going to Lollapalooza and they're going to go on tour and they're going to do all of these great things, and now all of a sudden everything is a fucking mess. And they are young, and seemingly the only managerial experience they have is with Min Heejin.
Yeah.
I think there is something to be said about the separation of Adore business and Adore creative. And apparently, from what I can tell, all the other subsidiaries within HYBE operate as business and creative. They're two separate things. There's a team that manages the business, and then there's a team that manages the creatives. Those two things don't always go together, and they don't always have the same end goals. The business, like I said, doesn't think like people. It doesn't feel. It has one end goal, and that is to be successful and is to make as much money as possible. That is not always to the benefit of the creatives, right? Staff, creative directors, makeup artists, hairdressers, the actual talent getting on stage. In Adore, one person managed it all. And so the business is going to be making those non-people decisions with people. And I think that ultimately is what is changing within Adore, which I think is probably stressing out the girls of New Jeans. And I think we can all remember from back in our days when we were youth and late adolescence going into adulthood, and we finally felt like we had the power to be heard, and we were as loud as we possibly could be, and we discovered very early on that sometimes fucked you. Like, to be totally honest, sometimes the best thing to be is quiet. But when you feel like you're not being heard, it's the last thing you feel you should be doing.
Yeah.
So New Jeans did what they did, and I completely understand why. Now, do I think they understand what those legal issues are, and that can they just be let go? No, they can't just be let go. Like, these companies aren't going to pull these lawsuits, particularly HYBE. They're just not going to do it. Can Min Heejin go back to being CEO?
No.
No, I don't think she can be. Now, in regards to New Jeans, they did have help. You have to have at least 50 subscribers to go live on YouTube. So it was a pre-existing YouTube channel that had subscribers. So they did have help. Legally, can this be seen as a breach of contract? Yes. For insubordination. Every contract has insubordination clauses in it. Even our own jobs, we have insubordination clauses in our contracts.
I looked up after this to see if mine had one, and yes, it does. Yeah.
Mine does too.
It's pretty small. It's phrased a little differently, but it's basically don't commit any actions publicly that will paint your employer in a bad light. It's pretty simple. And,
yeah, mine says that too. Can their contracts be terminated for this? Yes they can. If a termination happens, will New Jeans be at fault and liable for the payouts restrictions in their contracts? Yes.
Yeah. And as we know, trainee debt is still it's not a small chunk of change. And that would be very, very negative for them. Again, like we say, that would be, my heart would go out to them absolutely for that. Yeah. It feels like I certainly personally do have an issue with the idea of trainee debt. I always have said, and I think a lot of people have said that
I don't care for
its presence within K-pop contracts. It really, really slides that power balance between company and artist all the way up, with the power really going to the company, particularly when they're young. I think it's that difference between what is moral and what is legally written into your contract, and contractually this is the black and white facts, and then there's the moral position on is it right to enforce it or not.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. That's part of the thing that really kind of chaps my ass, is that like, to a certain extent, what New Jeans did was not good legally and contractually. It was a very bad move. I understand why they did it, but they are going to face the consequences of this, and it's unfortunate because the person who's supposed to be looking out for them, or the people who are supposed to be looking out for them, New Jeans doesn't know what they're doing. And they don't, even things that they said can be debunked and dismissed and be like, so they've been told things that are untruths and they think it to be fact. And they're going into this just, my heart just fell into my ass.
Yeah.
When I watched that. Because here I am as HR just going, shut up, like, shut up. Oh my God, stop talking. Oh my God, just like, oh my God, you're ruining it for yourself. No, don't do this. You could have gotten out of this. They could have gotten out of it. Today, and I think the chickens are coming to roost, because today, the CEO of Adore, who is an HR professional, she is the Chief Human Resources Officer of HYBE. She met with the members of New Jeans and their guardians, so whether it be parents or legal representation or whatever that may be. And I know there was a note or an announcement sent from Adore saying that before the 25th, which is when New Jeans gave the date that they wanted all their demands to be met, Adore said that they would be meeting with New Jeans individually and that the contents of the meetings would not be made public. And so to break this down in an HR way, to put it into layman's terms, we're going to be meeting with them. We're going to be discussing their contracts. And if they say anything about it or anybody says anything about it, that is a direct violation of that contract and it will be terminated. That is what that statement meant.
Yeah, laying it out really clearly and laying it out really publicly as well, because like we're saying, if they could use the reasoning of we weren't told or we were young, we don't understand the exact intricacies of our contract. They're saying, well, now you know, we've told you, you don't say anything. If you say anything, that isn't.
And the minute they walked into that room, they were read their Miranda rights. They were read the corporate version of you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and do can and will be used against you. Their parents being involved, because their parents are the ones who signed their contracts. They were minors.
Right.
And so their parents were there for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I saw a lot of people stress that they were separating out New Jeans. They're separating them, like divide and conquer sort of thing. I can get why people would think that. But let me explain. It's actually good that they were separated. They probably were spoken to as a group, but they were probably also spoken to individually. Now, this is why. Now, in a contract, people seem to be confused about how the contracts in, group settings, like when you're working as a team, like as a New Jeans or a Le Sserafim or whatever, each member has their own individual contract. There is no such thing as a group contract. Right. It's not a contract and everybody's names are on it. That's not how it works. Each individual member has a contract, and in that contract, there is going to be a Section A and a Section B. Section A is group activities. Section B is individual activities, which is why you see members like one member will be representing Gucci, another member will be off with Chanel, another member will be off. And so they each have their own individual things. Somebody goes and hosts Music Bank, just one member, or somebody goes and is on a drama. So those are going to be their individual contracts and how the individual activities work. And then also in their contract is what they're responsible for and what their jobs look like as a group. So when you are going to be discussing contracts, there might be things in those contracts that are specific to each individual member that don't carry across the board. And so when you communicate contracts and you go through contracts and you're dealing with contracts, there's personal, confidential information in those contracts. And so the only people who are going to be in the room is going to be HR, it's going to be your boss, it's going to be you, and any guardian or legal representation you want there with you. Those are the only people who are going to be in the room. Because there might be things in contracts that specific parents wanted for their kids in the contracts. And they don't want conflict to arise amongst the members, especially when they're working in a group. And so going over those contracts collectively would be bad. It could cause issues that they don't want to cause. This is HR dealing with this now, So it might seem stress. They're separating them. I get that. I get the stress, but it actually is in their best interest to sit down and talk about it individually. They can also allow them to make their own decisions. It's not good to work in a hive mind. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to, what's good for one person might not be good for another.
And it's also basic crowd psychology. If you're in a room with people having a discussion and they put a question to all of you, someone's more likely to speak up. The other might have something to say, but just isn't going to voice it. So it allows each of them to have the privacy and also the freedom to say what they want. And, you know, that's just basic, I think, respect as an individual employee. We wouldn't want it any other way.
Right. And I think, because imagine if you're in this group and you're the one who's like, I don't really like what we're doing, but you're the only one who thinks you think that way. When are you going to have the guts to say, I don't like this?
That's true.
You know? And so it is kind of and it does allow them to air their grievances honestly and openly. And I hope that they do. I hope that they are honest with it. But I also hope that they start to consider everything else going on around them. I think they're kind of in a bubble, and I don't think they're really seeing the world at large, which is hard to do. It's not necessarily an easy thing to do, especially when you are under a great deal of stress. Really kind of hard to see everything else. So up until this point, that is a very high level rundown of everything that has happened.
I mean, well done, Dana. That was great. Yeah.
Oh my god, I have heartburn, dude. Because
I felt the stress.
Dude, it's really hard to talk about this stuff neutrally and because no one is going to like what's being said here. None of this is good. Business is a really hard thing to talk about and have empathy because business itself doesn't have empathy. No. Shannon, from a marketing perspective, in regards to the way each party at play has behaved publicly, what is your opinion on all? What is your opinion like for HYBE, Adore? Because now Adore is separate from Min Heejin, or it could be like HYBE, Min Heejin, Adore, now separate Adore and separate Min Heejin, and then like New Jeans and the other companies that have kind of started to act publicly.
Yeah, it's one big fascinating smorgasbord, really. Just like as you gave context on HR and sort of mentioned that I'm in marketing, just to give a bit more kind of insight. I work in brand strategy specifically. I'm a media strategist. So from the perspective of kind of the area that I work in, I work with a brand, which can either be a very specific company brand, or it can be, you can look at it in the more broader, looser sense. And that's how I kind of have been looking at and really thinking about all of this. We can think of, obviously, HYBE, clear brand, Adore, brand, they're all companies. But the personal brand and the public brand of Min Heejin, I have found since this started to be very fascinating. And even as an extension of that, the way that she has, from the very beginning, associated her brand, her personal brand publicly with the New Jeans brand. And I think this is why this is a particularly difficult kind of, I think, topic when we're talking about as a business, but it is so integrated with, the group New Jeans and with sort of these artists, these groups that people care about. And this is, I think, one of those circumstances where you see a CEO and someone who, I've been in conversations with various CEOs throughout my career. Some of them like to stay low key. Some of them like to just do their job behind the scenes. Others very much want the spotlight. Others very much want recognition for who they are and to have a kind of quasi celebrity status. And I think when we look at Min Heejin, she absolutely wants to occupy the latter space. She wants to be known. She wants the kudos for what she wants. Her entire, this is my opinion, obviously, her sort of views seem to be that New Jeans was her golden ticket. The creation of a girl group before it was, New Jeans, before it was the members that we know them to be, was I will create a girl group. And again, we don't want to take it back to say that she was absolutely trying to copy the likes of BTS, but there's certain things in which things were done between the way that she's sort of done things with New Jeans. I mean, you talked about at one point, the way that a CEO can separate the business from the creative. When Big Hit was coming up, when BTS was coming up, that wasn't really the case. There's very close relationships between the people that we know working, Bang Shi-hook and BTS, because it was a much smaller operation. I think there's something interesting there in how she's sort of mirrored the way that she has a very close relationship with New Jeans as well, and wanting to be very involved. Bang Shi-hook produced for BTS at the beginning. He still does produce for some artists as well. So she very much wanted, I think, to align herself with all of these elements of New Jeans. And even when New Jeans first debuted, which, you know, a lot of us may remember, it was a surprise. The whole marketing strategy behind them.
It was a smash hit.
It took everyone was shocked. It hadn't been done before. They had just dropped attention, and it was just on the YouTube channel, and everyone was like, what is this? And it was this new hip, new sounding girl group, and it was a banger, and everyone was very, very fascinated. And that was part of the plan. There are certain allegations that the reason why she did that, it wasn't necessarily a real smart plan. It was sort of, as we spoke about, trying to get ahead of the Le Sserafim comeback and the Le Sserafim debut, and wanting to just expedite basically how you were going to get, you know, New Jeans out there, but doing it, I think, inarguably in a way that was it captured that kind of shock element and kind of really kick-started the interest in New Jeans in a way that, you know, some groups have to build themselves up little by little, and sort of people know and they get to know the group. This was a burst onto the scene, and that was, I think, a very interesting tactic. But from the beginning, there were articles and there were news things coming out, and this is another facet of the story. Min Heejin is close to certain reporters in the news. So there were certain more favourable articles from certain publications coming out of her than others. But the ones that were favourable were very much saying she is the genius behind New Jeans. And she, you know, that was a narrative and an image that continued all the while. So there was always an alignment with her and New Jeans. You couldn't really separate the two. And I think what's sad is that what we're seeing now is the biggest con of that, is the struggle to separate the two and the need to separate the two. I think we're at a point now where, regardless of people's opinions of Min Heejin, whether they think that she is good creatively and, you know, business wise for New Jeans and their success, there's certain things that I think we should, certain lines, I think, certain barriers and lines should probably have been drawn at the beginning that weren't. And I think that has therefore made New Jeans very much dependent on feeling like Min Heejin is intrinsic and integral to their success. And that, I think, is very interesting, her entire brand. The other thing that I think also is worth talking about when we're talking about Min Heejin's personal brand is the press conference, which we alluded to. And this, I think, is really interesting in the way that Min Heejin was wanted to be perceived at the very beginning of this. Like we said, Min Heejin calling a very public press conference was to get ahead of and to probably put herself in a more kind of get some personal sympathy as an individual outside of the big corporate conglomerate machine that is HYBE. You've got, and create this almost David and Goliath scenario, and she absolutely built into that. And I think that, you know, there's that, you know, if people haven't seen her press conference, like I said, it is pretty infamous at this point. You know, what she's wearing, the way that she's sort of talking, the way that she's crying, the way that she's very emotional.
She humanized herself. She humanized herself against a corporation that is not human.
Yes, absolutely. And I think she's smart and she's savvy enough at that stage. And even if she had PR specialists, which we know that she did, and she did have lawyers who were there to sort of help her public image, that's a move that happens quite a lot when you've got, it happens with, in other kind of disputes between companies, it happens between actors and sort of their producers and the big kind of the people that, you know, run their films and their movies and their TV shows. It is very much, you know, one is big Hollywood, the other is an individual person, and it is sort of, I can win emotional capital effectively for sort of the way that I position myself. And it did work for quite a while. She did get, you know, sympathy from particularly the Korean public. They really sympathized with her, and she particularly highlighted, and this is something that this caused a lot of conversation as well. This was a big discussion about the way that she tied herself in to the sexism that women face in South Korea, and particularly talking about how she was excluded from conversations that HYBE was run by men. She was the only woman in the entire sort of structure, and she was looked down on, she was made fun of, and that she was just trying to sort of you know, make a name for herself, but also help New Jeans. It was very much kind of, without trying to like minimize the idea of it, girl power. It was you know, it was standing up, and a lot of people, particularly Korean women who've experienced that, they really sympathized with her because they saw the sort of pain that she was going through, what she was sort of portraying. And thought, yeah, I believe it. I believe that there is, you know, horrible cases of sexism within HYBE.
Yeah.
The only thing that came out afterwards that kind of was contrary to that is all the things that we've talked about, the power she was given, and also that we found out that she is the highest paid out of senior management within HYBE. She was very well rewarded. Does that mean that behaviorally and, you know, behind the scenes in like interpersonally she was mistreated? No, of course not. But from a monetary perspective and from a hierarchy, she had quite a lot of power, and she did sort of she had a lot of capital within that company that she could use and did exercise.
She made more than Big Hit CEO,
which is
wow,
which is shocking, quite frankly.
It really is.
Because I feel like out of all the CEOs,
I did not know that actually.
And, you know, just to kind of bring up, and I think also what came out in that press conference that kind of pulled a lot of red flags for people were the words that she used in her description on her relationship with New Jeans.
Yes.
There was a lot of wording and a lot of like relationship verbiage that should not exist between a boss and an employee. Close relationship or not, had she been a man and used those words to describe their relationship with a female group, everyone would have went, oh no. You know, so there was a lot of discussion, like there's still a lot of discussion in regards to her actual relationship and how she conducted it with the members of New Jeans, who were during their trainee days and still kind of continue to be quite young.
Yeah, a lot of motherly, sisterly, very maternal, talking about she was very maternal towards them. She looked after them. She guided them through the process. And like the thing is, I've been in many scenarios where I have felt, you know, I've had older women helping me in my career, mentoring me through my career. But they're not my sister, they're not my parent, they're not, and they wouldn't want to be, and they're not trying to make themselves. And the fact that Min Heejin seems to be okay with being positioned, there's a whole other kettle of fish with the way that she positioned herself with the parents, and we can go into, you know, the way that, and I've spoken about this before, but K-pop trainees are taken out of their comfort zone at a very young age, and they are thrown into a system that is very confusing. And if someone wants to place themselves at the forefront and say, I will be your stability, I will be the one that you look to for guidance, I will be sort of the keystone that holds you together, someone can step into that dynamic, and they can occupy that space. And, you know, I dare not sort of make allegations that is what it is, that it is manipulation, that it is those things. It's entirely speculative from, like we said, her behavior and her language, but it doesn't feel healthy. I don't think you can look at the situation and say that this is a healthy relationship between CEO and artist. I don't think that can be argued otherwise.
As an artist, you should never have the sort of reliance on the person that you make money for.
No.
Because their livelihood is based on you. And that, I mean, I just think about what's going to happen when maybe one of them does kind of put their hand up and go, I don't want to do this. Like when they're older, you know, and I just kind of get nervous for them.
You know, and I think the thing is, if we're going to talk about sort of women in business and women struggling and sort of, you know, struggling in that, it is hard. I'm a woman in my career. We're women, you know, Dane and I are women in our careers, that you have to work harder than often the men do and other people do. The thing is, you can be a woman and still be a bad person. And Min Heejin is a woman, and I think she is a bad person, and that's my view. And even if you don't think morally she's a bad person, from a business perspective, and surely HYBE definitely agrees that she is a bad person to do business with. From that purely objective, do I want to be I want to be working with this person? Absolutely,
because we don't, and we'll find out when the cases are closed, because they're still being investigated. The police are investigating, particularly with HYBE's case. It is a criminal case. And the police are investigating. They did see that there was enough to do a full-fledged investigation. And even the judge in the injunction said to the HYBE lawyers, you have cause for lawsuits in regards to business activities within the damage done to HYBE.
Yeah.
So that, not good. And Min Heejin has been pulled into the police department and interviewed for hours on end. So they're doing that, and we'll see. I haven't heard much about like the defamation cases, but I'm sure they're being investigated. I mean, when they file their lawsuits, they submit everything that they have at that time, to be like, here's why we're doing this, because apparently businesses can file civil and criminal lawsuits through the police, so they're doing both. So. Yeah.
And also I think defamation cases are quite tough as well, because it can definitely vary by country how hard and how easy it is to prove defamation. I know over here in the UK they are very, very hard to prove.
In the United States it's very hard as well. You have to actually prove what was said was a lie. If it's true, then it's just kind of like, But in Korea, you in fact can be charged and found guilty of defamation if it just harms somebody's reputation, point blank, period. It doesn't matter if it's true or false.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's looking like that's not going to be good for her because she said a lot of nasty stuff in regards to. And also it brings up the case of pulling artists into the legal battles of the companies. We had a very prominent member of BTS say, don't use them. And we can only assume what he's talking about. And that is something that goes, I think, across the board. No one should be pulling these artists into this mess. Granted, in this case, the artist has kind of stepped a foot into it themselves. Granted, probably in defense of themselves, because fair enough.
Right.
But I don't think, unfortunately, and I it's not that I want to point any fingers, but I do feel that the shielding and the mudslinging towards artists did start with Min Heejin, and she's just kind of continued to do it. She's kind of backed away once the lawsuits started from Source and B-Lift. She kind of stepped back from that rhetoric, because I think she realized she was caught in a state of panic, and was just kind of. I just remembered that image of her lawyer with his head in his hands.
Right.
Like
he was
at the conference because he couldn't stop her.
Yeah. He was over the cliff edge at that point. He was like, it just.
Well, and now what's really interesting is that I did take note. I don't know if this means anything, but I did take note that she's no longer making she's no longer making statements through her lawyers. She's making statements through her PR firm.
Yeah, which I think is a signal of what needs to be repaired here and what actual she's able to do legally. You just got to let the process. What's kind of done is done on that front. Obviously, they've got to deal with the case and represent her behind the scenes. But yeah, I think she's got a reputationally. And again, this is the thing. If she wants to position herself like a celebrity, you know, the public currency can move very quickly in one direction or the other. And if you lose it, it's hard to get back. And I think key to her success, whether it's whatever she wants to do, this is the whole argument of her wanting out of her non-compete is. I mean, I think if she was to leave, she was to maybe get away scot-free, she'd want to go and start a competitor company and try and, in an ideal world, bring New Jeans with her. The odds of that happening are extremely low, given that,
especially since HYBE owns New Jeans IP, so you have to get that IP.
Yeah, and I think also what's a really good point when we talk about IP as well is we think as fans and people that enjoy and consume the music of the artists, the IP to us is a set of people. To the likes of HYBE as a conglomerate, and even to the likes of Min Heejin as a CEO, IPs, you trade them like Pokemon cards. They're a way to make money, and some are worth more than the other. There was a lot of argument that Min Heejin, that New Jeans brought in a lot of revenue for HYBE, and therefore that they should have more control. The breakdown was they made 3% of HYBE's entire revenue. I think it was something like less than 3 billion in the year. Big Hit, just for comparison, made 19 billion. Oof. So they're very successful. I wouldn't take away from that. But if we're looking at the scale of other companies within and under HYBE, they don't have the power that Min Heejin might try and say that they do.
Yeah. It is inflated. A lot of what they say is inflated, but that's not to deter from the fact that New Jeans has been very successful in their short time.
No, absolutely not.
They just haven't. I feel like if they had created more, that it would be higher. Their percentage would be higher. But to be quite frank, they've released 2 EPs, and they haven't gone on a tour. Most money is made through tour and merch.
Right.
And if this hadn't happened, they probably would be gearing up and preparing to go on tour. And then
absolutely. And I think that was even part of the plan. Even before all of this happened, HYBE had stated that they were planning to release a longer album and go on tour in the beginning of 2025. Like that was part of their plan. Who knows if that's the case now? I don't know. I think everything's probably on hold. I think they're finishing contractual obligations that they had before all this happened, and now we're just going to kind of see what happens. Yeah. Either way, it sucks. All of it, just even from just now opinions. This sucks.
Yeah,
it really does.
All of this sucks, and it really in everyone listed here. Fucked up to a certain extent. And it's we got to feel bad for And I think the hate trains that these groups have had railed against them from all directions, from New Jeans to Le Sserafim to Islet to BTS to anyone who inadvertently got caught in the crosshairs of all of this, that is mess. Like that was, I don't understand why people are like that. I don't get it. It makes no sense to me. What do these people have to do with the mess that's that?
Right.
You know? That's just being unhinged behavior. Like, okay, fans of New Jeans, I get you're stressed and this is scary shit because you think your group is going to just implode in on itself. But that's not Le Sserafim's fault. I'm sorry. Like, it's just like, what do they have to do with it? They're going to keep their business pushing. They got nothing to do with this. And so they're going to act as if they got nothing to do with this. Same with Islet and same with BTS. They got nothing to do with none of this. You know? So they're just going to keep it pushing. As you know, and we would have loved to see New Jeans keep it pushing.
Yeah, of course.
And we would love to see them keep pushing. But there is a certain extent where they have to accept that there's new management in the company. And I've never seen an employee think they can make the demands that they want certain management when they're an employee. That's where I was kind of shocked by it. I'm like, girls, like, that's not how it works. I'm sorry. As much as we would like it to work that way, because I would love to be able to dictate who my boss is.
Yeah. And I think that, and it could be even like a unique part of being in a group that has a fandom, that has people that say they are ride or die for you. You know, the idea of, you know, we're going to make a YouTube live and then all of our fans, everyone use your hashtags, uses, you know, even if that was the case, and it has been the case, there have been people sort of spreading hashtags online saying, yes, we agree with what New Jeans want to do. We want this, we want that. Doesn't mean a company is not going to build its entire career and its entire trajectory on, particularly in a legal mess like this, on some anonymous people on Twitter hashtagging things. It's not going to happen. It might change the way that they approach things, as we've been saying, from a PR perspective, from a messaging perspective. It will have an impact in the way that they probably phrase things and the way that they roll things out, however reparative they want to make that in terms of either getting things back on track or sort of, you know, going back to business. Legally and what they're going to make, it's not going to change a thing.
No, and honestly, I've had to say a million times, the court of public opinion has absolutely nothing to do with the court of law.
No, absolutely.
And so, you know, people can be like, we want Min Heejin back, and the courts are going to go, she's guilty of X, Y, and Z. If they do, and then she's in jail, then how is she CEO of anything?
Yeah.
You know, so I've been yelled at a lot about this, and I'm just like, listen, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just telling you the facts here, and it doesn't look good.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't.
Oh my god.
Facts don't care about your feelings, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh, facts do not. And honestly, feelings are also not fact, as much as we would like them to be.
I'm sorry, listeners, if you're listening, I'm still here. But I've just been given so much information that I'm just taking it. It feels like a knot in my stomach. Like I feel like
it sucks, right? I felt kind of nauseous this entire time.
And I'm just, and it was very information. Like, thank you for all the information, because I'm like, there's some things I didn't know about, especially the legal part of it too. And I just, you know, and I just wish the best for everybody, but you know, that's all I can do. Like,
I know. Man, but HYBE does have a new CEO now, so they have a new CEO.
Oh, okay.
The other CEO has stepped down. They're saying it's not for these reasons, although it did seem like there was conflict between the former CEO and Min Heejin. But they said it's been part of their plan that he would step down because HYBE is going into a restructuring, and the new CEO has been part of building that restructuring, so it makes sense business-wise for him to run the show. But who knows? He's going to make decisions a lot differently than the other guy did. You know, so who knows what he's going to do? The new CEO of Adore, she, like I said, is the chief human resources officer of HYBE. Right. So, I mean, that kind of debunks Min Heejin saying there was no one in high up who was a woman. I'm the only one. Out of the CEOs of the subsidiaries, but there are women high up in HYBE. Because now she has stepped in to become the CEO of Adore. Which goes to show that they still want Adore to be run by a woman.
Right.
But particularly a woman who is very, very adept at HR processes, given sort of, as we sort of mentioned, you know, all of the allegations, particularly the interpersonal ones, particularly that allegation that is still out there of sexual harassment and assault by one of them. Like that is, they're bringing someone in who
can
is
handle
not
that.
going to pull any punches when it comes to what you do and do not do, what is right and what is ethical in the workplace, which sends a message in itself. So I think that that's and hopefully brings something positive.
When they announced that she was going to be on their board, because after they restructured the board and they said the chief human resources officer, I was like, oh no, that's the scariest motherfucker in a company.
Yeah.
Outside of legal. You know, so that she was going to go in and tear everything apart and go through everything and fix everything and restructure everything. And it looks like that's exactly what she's doing, which, if you're used to another way, is going to bring you stress. Anybody who's been involved in a management change knows what that feels like.
Yeah.
It's not good, people. It's not good. It's terrifying.
Those first couple of months, you're just like, am I going to lose my job? Oh my God.
Right.
You know, like that's just because that's just how it is always like that. And so, but it takes life experience to be able to go, okay, I just need to white knuckle through this. It'll calm down. It'll get better. Things will start to make sense. It'll be all right. I just need to sit down and shut up and do my job. And I just need to, you know, and then you can get through it. And then once you're through it, you can kind of go, hey, so there's this one thing I don't like. And then you're more likely to get what you want. Like there are ways of working through it. But oh my God, I know. I'm incredibly annoyed at these girls for the way they handled it, but at the same time, I completely understand why they handled it that way. So I have so much freaking sympathy because I get it. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, you just made this worse for you. Oh no. So that is the ballad of Adore HYBE and Min Heejin.
My God.
As it stands. I'm sorry, Dre. We just tossed a bunch of shit at you.
Yeah, it was like you just vomited a bunch of information to my brain. Yeah. And I just sat here taking it all in, being like, confused and realizing what happened.
We should just have clips, just like an edit of just faces you've made throughout the process.
It was mostly like thinking, like, "Oh my God!"
Just the loading circle.
Yeah,
just the spinning.
Legit. It's literally the whole time, or a reaction here and there because I'm like, "Oh, I get it," and then a lot of words. Yeah. Then you guys explained it very, very well. So thank you for that. I really do know a lot more about this whole situation because of y'all. So appreciate you both. But yeah. Wishing the best. That's all I gotta say.
Godspeed, y'all. Should we get into the fun news?
Yes.
In other news.
In other news, Dana, what do we got for us for today?
So in fun news, let's lighten it up, shall we?
Yes.
Let's bring it to the stuff we actually want to talk about. Get these knots out of our chests. So IU, the goddess that she is.
Let's go, Miss Ma'am.
Held her concert at the Olympic Stadium. She is the first female soloist, the first female performer to perform at the stadium. And everyone who was somebody was there.
Everybody was there.
Everybody. In the K-pop sphere of things, because if I talked about everyone who was there, we'd be here for another hour. So, V, who starred in her Love Wins All music video, bro was there. He took a little break from his military.
He looked good.
And he was there. And he looked good. He
looked good. Short hair, everything.
He's
built.
Looking like,
I love it.
Listen, if he were to walk through a wall, it would look like the Kool-Aid Man.
Damn.
He got arms this like in my face.
He's
big. He's thick. But he did bring a date with him, and that date was one J-Hope. J-Hope, who is just 3 weeks out of getting discharged from the military. Yep. He took a day off, and he also went to see IU.
Incredible.
Oh my God. And then the legend himself, G-Dragon.
Ji-Young, of course.
He was there in his little headscarf.
Oh,
the headscarf. I love it.
I wore one once just to see how it would go. I felt like a doofus. I looked like my grandma. I was full babushka. I mean, I was just like, let's make some pierogies.
No. But GD, I guess he can pull it off, obviously.
He looks great. He can wear just about anything.
Great. True.
Somehow it suits him, and I'm just like, you know what? Stop it. It makes me sick. You always look good. G-Dragon. Okay, also, NCT's Dayoung and Johnny were there. Johnny,
Ooh.
a local boy. North side of
Yep.
Chicago, Johnny.
Let's go.
Every time he does anything online, he takes members to Target.
That's right.
It's like
He
the
does.
classic, the traditional like Chicago experience. They go to Target, they go to Taco Bell, and then they go sit on a swing set.
I don't blame him. As someone from the UK, I am desperate to go to Target at least once in my life. It
Come and
looks
visit
like
me. I got a
magical
Target a
place.
couple blocks away. I was at
That
Target
is
yesterday.
true.
Twice.
Not many people have
Amazing.
Targets.
Oh my god. No, it's funny. We have a brand here, like it's a fast food chain. It's called Portillo's, and it does classic Chicago food. And when I was in Seoul last year, it was on the news that Portillo's is going to be expanding through the United States, and we were like, we got to find Johnny. Holy shit!
Ooh.
I didn't let him know.
curious about
We
that
get your
too.
chocolate cake shake in Los Angeles now, Johnny. They
That
take a piece
sounds
of chocolate
crazy.
cake and then a chocolate shake, and they put the chocolate cake in the shake.
That's crazy.
That's a dream.
It's coming to you, Dre. It's
It
coming.
is. Hopefully.
But also, Super Junior's Kyun, TXT's Beomgyu and Soobin,
Hey.
Stray Kids Seungmin and Lino.
Let's go.
Everyone went in pairs.
It seems like it. I'm just seeing the trend now.
ATEEZ's Jungho and Songhwa. Did I already say them?
No, I didn't.
No. Okay, so ATEEZ's Jungho and Songhwa. Stacy's Seoon. Rise's Anton and Sungchan. And LE SSERAFIM's Chaewon and Sakura.
Let's go. That was a list, and I know there's a lot more.
There's a lot more. Those are just the ones that we know.
What?
So, it's very possible there were plenty of people there who just
No, for sure.
were just like, you know what? I'm just gonna sit here in my little mask. With my
Hoodie.
Yeah, you. There was one picture I saw of her. She was in this silver gown with this crown.
Yes.
Oh, I
my
saw that.
God.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
We love
I was
IU.
like, stop it. She's getting married.
She knows who she is. She knows what she represents.
She
Yeah.
knows. I love that.
NMIXX is about to make history as the first K-pop act to participate in Latin Music Week.
What? Hold
Yeah.
up. And first, okay,
NMIXX,
and mix.
first one.
Come
They're
through with the
going to
Spanish.
participate in Billboard's Latin Music Week, and it's going to take place on October 2024 of this year
Yes.
in Miami.
Miami. I am wearing my Miami Heat jersey too. Anyway, that's crazy. It's meant to be.
So they are scheduled to perform and take part in panels that explore global music trends and cultural connections.
What?
That's cool.
I hope they show this live, like film it. I'm
I
curious.
know. I mean, they must be. They'll
have
take
to.
to social media. There's going to be some really good moments from this,
I bet.
I think. I can't wait to
hope.
see it. That'll be fun. So yeah, so this is really exciting about NMIXX. I mean, they do have their song Sonar, which has Latin elements, and there's Spanish in it. So they have already started to involve themselves in the
Right.
culture, and so now they're going and they're going to share. They're going to share music. It's an international music exchange.
We love to
We
see
love
it.
when K-pop branches out.
I know,
we
and
do.
like in a really good, healthy way.
Yeah.
You know?
In a non-appropriative way. We love it.
Right, in a way that's like, let's hang together. That's great.
Right.
So we do have an announcement of a new brand ambassadorship. Because we are in the market for brand ambassadorships.
Ooh.
New Jeans, bless them, debuts as Calvin. They have debuted in Calvin Klein's Fall 2024 campaign.
Oh.
They're at the very least in their campaign. They did when they did their Japan concerts in
Right.
June. They were outfitted in Calvin Klein, so I feel like we saw this coming.
I see.
So yeah, and so the campaign showcases the group's fresh and youthful energy, emphasizing their global influence. The members are featured in a series of exclusive visuals highlighting the brand's latest collection. It kind of focuses on minimalistic, modern aesthetic, blending Calvin Klein's classic style and the group's trendy appeal, according to the press release.
Calvin Klein is booking up the K-pop stars.
no.
They're getting
my
them. Well, I
God.
mean, they've had success.
Yeah,
did.
it's not done
They
too bad
had.
for them.
It's
No,
it's
it
done
hasn't.
really well for them. I mean, I can't say that I owned much Calvin Klein before we had Jungkook and Jenny.
Ooh.
But now I do. I'm in fact wearing
Okay.
Calvin Klein pants right now.
That's crazy.
So congratulations, New Jeans. I hope
Yay.
this is the foreshadowing of good things to come
Right.
Yeah.
for the group. 17s. Okay. Oh my God, I just read them. Okay. Joshua has revealed that he uses his company headshot for his driver's license.
That's
I mean, why not? It's a free
I know.
photo session. Why would
Exactly.
I mean, to be fair, fantastic headshot.
It's a great
Fantastic
headshot.
So he's revealed in a Uverse live broadcast that he uses the company's headshot as his driver's license photo. So in Korea, you bring the photo yourself to be put on the driver's license. So you bring. It's not like how we do it. We sit in the DMV and they take a picture of us and we look like ass.
We have
A
to sit in
mugshot?
we have to sit in little like mobile photo booths that are in supermarkets, and the lighting is not good, and it just washes
Oh,
out.
that's how
It's
you guys
terrible.
do it. We're in the
Yeah.
DMV handing in all of our confidential information,
Yep.
and then they have us sit up against a wall, and some angry boomer takes our picture and makes us put our chins too far back. I don't know why they do that, but my photo looks like I have just been arrested.
Yeah.
Looks like a mugshot.
It's a mugshot. I'm not happy. Well, one, I'm at the DMV. I'm miserable.
Yeah.
I'm pissed.
In front of
And
people,
then
too.
at the same time, I'm being rushed, but I literally look, I'm like, I got caught. I've been on the news. That's what that photo says.
Yeah, ours are move your head into the circle that's on the screen to fit your face in, and then it gets flashed going, do not smile, and then it takes a photo.
Oh, they want us to smile on ours.
Oh no, we don't like slapped asses. It's not good.
But to go back to Joshua, so the fans found this hilarious, and they had playful comments like, "This feels slightly illegal."
Unfair.
Like, bud, do you look like this every day? I'm gonna guess that he does. But
Yeah.
but the incident sparked online discussions about idols using professional images in unexpected ways.
Interesting.
Oh my god, I'm looking at our notes and there's his actual like company picture next to him like showing it. Like his actual driver's license, and it's the picture.
It is the
It
exact
is the
one.
picture. He looks great. I mean, hair perfect.
He looks good. My
Yeah,
God. Let's
I
go.
get it. I'd do the same. If I had a
would
professional
too.
hairstyle like this, and if I could like submit it for my IDs, I would.
Done.
Easy.
Looks easier too, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh my god. Have your job do it for you,
Right?
please. I respect the hustle. Good job, Joshua. I respect you for it. So we do also have a couple of comebacks that were announced, like hot off the press, like this was last night.
Oh my goodness.
So
I see.
we have a 10-year anniversary. G-Friend is coming back.
G-Friend.
G-Friend's
Oh my
coming back
God.
to Source Music, and they are going to meeting their fans for their 10th anniversary. They are going to release a group project in early 2025, and the
okay,
comeback
early
will in fact
2025.
be handled by Source.
Let's go, G-Friend.
Let's do it. People were
Nice.
so
So
mad when
sad
they
when they spontaneously
Exactly.
broke up and they're back. I love it.
I love
They
it.
are back. And YG has announced a comeback for Blackpink.
My God.
Comeback is coming in 2025. After that, we don't know. They're saying it's going to be a world tour. Now, just for people
Okay.
to take note that Blackpink does have a group contract with YG.
That's true.
Their individual contracts are with either their own labels or other, they went their separate ways in regards to their
Right.
individual
Yeah.
activities. But as a group, they are still signed with
As a
YG
group.
until the end of 2025. So,
Interesting.
yes, they only signed for 2 years for group contracts.
I
So,
see.
hopefully, we get an album
Ooh.
and a tour.
I would love it. I would love it. I love it.
Maybe
Give
some
it-
more
give
solo
it-
activity as well. Lisa's gone first, but
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
three yet to have a go.
That's true.
Yeah, Rose still got
Rosé,
got
I'm thinking of.
kicking. Yeah. But as a group, there is going to be, at the very least, a world tour in 2025.
A define world tour.
Yeah,
feel like
is it a
every
world
year is
tour?
gonna be big.
What's the world mean to these people?
That's what I'm saying.
Is
Define
it
world
everywhere?
tour.
I mean, to be fair, Blackpink's last world tour, that covered a lot
Yeah.
of the world.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
it did. It did. You got
They
me there.
definitely went rolling for that one. They covered some bases.
That's true. That's true.
So, but yeah, so that's all I got for news.
Oh my goodness.
That's it. I'm still laughing at Josh, but the pictures are still up, guys.
I'm looking at Josh. He's staring at me into my soul. Oh my God. All the news, all the comebacks. Oh, there's a lot of information that we took in from this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dana and Shannon, for explaining to me and our listeners everything, just to break it down little by little, every information, for us to understand, for us normies, to understand every little thing about this whole situation. And yeah, guys, Be sure to check out Ultimate Bias K-Popcast. Be sure to like, share, do all the things, subscribe, and I'll see you guys till the next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.